All right. So we are joined by eXp Ohio broker, Louise Potter. Hey, Louise.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you today?
Oh, great. It's Friday. Yay!
All the realtors getting in trouble this week?
It's been a busy week. Very definitely.
Good. I don't know. I figure if you don't test the waters, you can't learn, you know? You got to
Well,
get in
we have
trouble at
plenty of
least once.
topics for the future, so we're good.
Perfect. So I wanted to have you on and bring you here so that we can talk about some of the common things that you're experiencing each week, because I think everybody always has the same question. You know what I mean? You're just dealing
Mhm.
with, okay, so what are you dealing with this week?
Well, one of the things that I would really love to touch on, and I know this, I'm speaking to Ohio, but it is, it's something that you need to be aware of. There's an awful lot of clients who are trying to break a contract.
Like
They're
a
in
buyer's
con
remorse type
A
deal.
buyer's remorse, a seller, ooh, somebody else wants to give us more money. It's on both sides.
Right.
This crazy, crazy market has made things, hard to navigate.
Hmm.
And we have to be really careful how we do it.
Everybody feels like they're like amped up, you know?
Well, they are. Everybody's on edge.
Yeah.
Everybody is, I mean, we're a little bit in a cage fight with our
Right.
clients, trying,
Right.
trying to get them into a house and the best deal. And, they're losing out on 4, 5, 10, 15 houses. And,
Right.
you know, sometimes people just throw caution to the wind and, start giving advice they shouldn't be giving.
Okay.
So that's where it
Like,
gets scary.
okay, so we have a client that wants to break the contract.
Hmm.
Do we ignore
So
them? No, just kidding. I'm sorry. Unsubscribe. I
put your
didn't get it.
pillow over your head and pretend you don't hear them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, it all starts with, it goes back to, of course, doing your due diligence before you even get into this. Sitting down so people understand what they're getting into, what the terms are, and all of those things. But
Right.
occasionally something happens and they panic. And we are
Mhm.
seeing this a lot.
Mhm.
And it's a little frightening. So, what do you do when somebody wants to break a contract? We as agents, particularly in Ohio, and you need to check your state contract laws.
Mhm.
And, some states have, attorneys that handle things and some don't. We don't. So we can't sit down and look at somebody and say, oh, you know what, you can use the inspection contingency to get out of it. Just find something wrong with your inspection. Or, you know what, I don't, this
I
doesn't
mean,
seem
but
like
that is an out in the contract, the
it isn't out in the
inspection.
contract, but it's not probably our job to counsel them to do that.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's the difference. There is the unauthorized practice of law. And in the
Mhm.
state of Ohio, that's not heard at the Division of Real Estate. That's not heard at a local level. That is heard in front of the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio.
Wow.
So that's not someplace any of us wants to end up.
No. So
No.
what is the best, like, then what should we do?
Well, I mean, always the best is to direct them to legal counsel. You know
Mhm.
what? If you feel this way, and I understand, you're afraid,
Mhm.
I think you really should talk to an attorney to make sure that you're doing the right move and how to do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
If they choose not to, and they tell you send over a termination, you can do it, but at least document
Right.
that you have pointed them to legal counsel, and that's not something that you can advise them on.
Right.
I can't tell you how to break this contract. It is a legal and
Mhm.
binding document under the
Mhm.
statute of frauds in the state of Ohio. You've
Mhm.
signed it, they've signed it. You know, Sometimes if terms or conditions aren't met, that may terminate a contract, but we really should have an attorney guiding us through this process.
Nice.
Well, I don't want to get an attorney. I don't want to do that. Well, if it were
So,
me, I'd be talking to my attorney. So I
right.
really think you should. Here's some names of, 3 or 4 real estate attorneys. If you don't have one, notice I gave 3 or 4 names
Okay.
to at least help guide us through the process.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. So anytime it's like a contract, even though we as real estate agents have read the contract and we have explained it, because part of the explanation of it to a buyer is like, here are the conditions of it, right? Like it
Mhm.
has to meet all of these conditions in order for then everybody to move forward or whatever, right? Like, so for
Right.
example, the inspection, like it is contingent on an inspection. So if you're not
Correct.
satisfied with the inspection, like then you get to terminate the contract. Like we explain that as part of it.
Right. And that's acting in good faith.
Okay.
Okay. So, yes, we're going to
But
have
it's
our
a fine
inspection.
line, Louise.
Pardon me?
It feels like a fine line.
It is a fine line, and it's one we have to navigate carefully. So, yeah, absolutely. We have the right to have an inspection. If there's something in this inspection you don't want, then you can terminate based on this number of days and these reasons, and this is how we do it.
Okay.
That's absolutely within the scope of our duties.
Got it. But when it's like something else that's like not because of the inspection, like maybe they got buyer's remorse, the inspection, they got it on Tuesday, the inspection's not until Thursday, then being like, okay,
yeah,
now it's an attorney time.
Right. Or,
got it.
You have to read your contract and understand your contract.
What? You have to read the contract?
I know.
That's like
so
one
silly.
thing in real estate school that made me crazy. They don't ever read the contract.
I know.
What the hell?
Well, how many contracts do we have here in the state of Ohio?
Yeah, but I mean, still, you're getting like your real estate school. It's specific.
Mm-hmm. They don't feel that's their job to
Obviously,
get into
they don't feel that it's their job.
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
I know, and it's frustrating, and that's why we do a contract class every month. On a Wednesday at 9:30 in the morning. I think it's the second Wednesday is contract compliance and kind of legal issues. So I encourage everybody to come, and we also record those. But it's really important. And the other thing that you want to do when you're talking about these kinds of things is watch your words.
Okay.
It's not, I think you should do this. You need to do this. I'm directing you to do this. It is, here's your options. They haven't met this, or, we're right on the cusp of not meeting this. Here are your options.
Right.
What do you choose to do?
Yeah. So let's talk about the sellers. So we did the buyers, and like that buyer remorse thing usually will happen like right around that time, right? So like the sellers, okay, they accept an offer. Now they get an offer that's higher. I was the buyer's agent, and the seller, I think this, because we're due Ohio and Kentucky, and I think this was an Ohio one, where the seller, we requested repairs, the buyer requested repairs. The seller didn't answer at all, like would not communicate. And I guess at that point, the contract was like void because we were like over our days. And then he like took another offer.
And that can happen. And,
and
that's where keeping that documentation is really important. We requested it back from them, this number of times. We had up until this time frame with our buyer to withdraw our request.
Yeah. Right.
Because once midnight comes, it's dead.
I think that's like the good tip though, too. Yeah. It's like, okay, if you're the buyer's agent and the seller's not responding, because that was something, even though I had read the contract, I didn't fully like understand what it all meant. And so like in Ohio, it was Ohio. So in Ohio, it was, Cincinnati specifically. I don't know if they do a different one in other parts.
Yeah, they have a different one in every other part of the state.
Of course, that's how it is. Okay, so like, but in ours, it was like, if they didn't answer, then the contract was void. But like, as the buyers, if they are getting nervous that there's no answer, then they need to know it's potential that the contract could be void, or they can withdraw their offer, their request for repairs, which then puts them back into contract. Correct?
Correct. Okay. Depending upon what the contract says. Columbus does that. They have an agreement to remedy period. You've got to get the request to remedy to them before the end of the inspection period. Then you have an agreement to remedy period. If you don't come to an agreement during that agreement to remedy period, at midnight at the end of that agreement to remedy period, the contract is dead. And it says that specifically in the contract. And a lot of people don't read that and understand that.
Right.
Those things we can speak to because that's in black and white, it's in the contract. But we can't tell them how to go pick something out and structure it so that they can terminate the contract. That really should come from an attorney.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So there's a difference there.
I think in my case that seller actually was an attorney. So like that was different. But like, let's say it's a seller that we are representing and they're like, I want to take this higher offer. What do I do?
Well, then you put them in a backup position subject to the release of a primary offer.
Or
So
they
you,
could, yeah, and they probably need to, what if they're pretty adamant that they don't want to move forward with offer one, they want to move forward with offer two?
well, that's certainly your choice. We can't force you to sell your home, but
Hmm.
you need to speak to legal counsel about that to see what could happen in the event that you do that.
Right. Perfect.
I can't tell you. I can't practice law. I
These
don't have.
like, oh my God. And I want to tell people, if nothing like this has happened to you, like it will, like
It truly will.
it will,
Yes.
it will happen. So tip one is read the contract, right?
Hmm.
Understand
Exactly.
it. If you're not sure, like ask for examples of like how this would play out, like either with your colleagues or your broker or whatever. And then tip two is like, just, you can explain the contract, but you can't advise on it. That advisement part is an attorney.
Is an attorney.
Got it.
And when you get into this kind of situation, really one of the first people that you should reach out to is your broker.
Not your friends.
Not your
Not your
friends, to your broker. Your brokers are your friends too. But
That's true.
we're the one ultimately responsible.
Right. And
So
you don't want to end up at the Supreme Court, is what you're saying.
yeah, and we'll help you wade through it and give you direction
Right.
to handle these situations so that we're not having to undo something down the road. Nothing's
Hmm.
worse than when we find out after the fact because it's
Yeah.
already done
Yeah.
and there's nothing we can do.
I've already been yelled at for that. Thank you. Please stop yelling at me, Louise. No, I'm just kidding.
I've never yelled at you.
It feels like
yell.
yelling. It
I
was
cry
Sarah.
quietly in the corner, but I don't yell.
That's awesome. I think these are really good tips. Thank you so much. And we're going to work on doing this monthly, like the thing
Great.
that you're going through each month,
Mhm.
so that we can share the wealth of knowledge.
Like I say, I've got quite a library full of stuff
Yes,
to talk about. So
that'll be exciting.
we'll never be at a loss for words, I promise.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.